Do you guys remember the show 90 Day Fiancé, where someone from the US would leave and go abroad, meet some person, or usually they met before they actually left to go to the country where their lover resided, but they would meet for the first time while being in their country, and then usually, more often than not, they would bring them back to the United States. I don't know if that show still airs anymore, but I used to get a kick out of watching it and always found it interesting that the end goal was to move back to the United States, especially when they would go to these places where the how do I say that, the person who wasn't from the United States would live, right? Wherever this other foreign place was or country outside of the US was. And you could see like they may not have had the most money, but like the way of life, the peace that they had, clearly their living situation was better. And nine times out of 10, I felt like when the person outside of America came back to the US, they instantly realized like the difference, the culture shock, because it was such a contrast to what they had been used to living in their place back home. So for some reason, that show just popped in my head today and it came back to my mind. And I thought today's topic would be, or in the spirit of Valentine's Day, I thought a good topic for today would be to talk about like dating abroad, finding love abroad. And so, my question to you all is, would you ever move abroad for love? And not just for the sake of moving abroad or just for just anybody. Like this would be somebody that you actually felt connected to and wanted to, build a life with. Could you ever see yourself living outside of America with this person? Or do you think if, you happen to find the love of your life on vacation, you would prefer to move back to the United States? I know for me, this is a question that has crossed my mind a few times just because of my living situation, being a digital nomad, but also having dated abroad. And I'm pretty like 99% sure I'm absolutely fine with living outside of America. Whether or not I would live in the country, like my person's country, I think it will all depend on the country, if we're being honest. Like, I wouldn't say I'm ready to just live anywhere abroad. It does have to like be a fit. But yeah, definitely open to dating outside of, or living outside of America, and even dating outside of my culture, which I think is another question to really consider, especially when you're looking to live abroad and you are in a space where, you're dating and looking to meet people, is if you are open to dating outside of your culture and or your race. And I know this can be like a heavy topic for Black women specifically, because I feel like I've heard it more in previous years than like as of late. I think more women are starting to open up their minds to the idea of possibly dating outside of their race. But for the longest, I felt like I would hear a lot of Black women be very adamant about not dating anyone other than a Black man. And while that is fine, everybody can have their preference. I have no problem with it. And being someone who has dated a Black person, being a Black person, like I get it. But I think where it gets a bit confusing, or it's always been confusing for me, is the fact that a Black man could be literally anywhere in this world. And I felt when I would hear this, a lot of times the person was expressing that they did not want to date someone that wasn't American, or at least that's how it came across to me. Because as of late, I realized that the term Black, depending on who you're talking to, can have two definitions. So for some people, Black is referring to the American culture, so an African American person, the American culture, and a Black person, so an African American, is the term Black, or is who Black refers to. While other people like myself see Black as like skin complexion or really just describing more of your racial background. So even just beyond skin, because you can have all different shades when it comes to African people, Black people. So it's also about like hair texture and I think facial features. And there's just certain things that come, with the race of being Black. And I've seen this debate, this back and forth of like who's Black and who's not. So that's a whole interesting topic in itself. And I'm curious to know, if you're watching this, how do you define Black? Do you define Black as only an African American person, so only Black people that are from the United States? Or is it just open to Black people, anyone who looks Black? Let me know down in the comments. I'm curious. But that's definitely a question to consider. Even if you are someone who feels like you only want to have a Black partner, or you're determined to have kids that are melanated with kinky curly hair, like, again, the preference is yours. But I do think it's important to realize that that's very different from saying you want to only date someone who is American, culturally. So that was why the question came to my mind, would you date outside of your culture and or your race? Because they are two different things. And I just remember when I was I went on a trip to the Dominican Republic with some friends a while back. And I think this was the first time it sparked in my head that I saw Black, or I defined Black differently from the group that was around me, because being in the Dominican and the DR is a whole nother, it's a whole nother case in itself, because there's that whole concept of like very people who look like me who are Dominican who don't claim to be Black. So there's that. But I just remember being there and asking my friends, presenting this similar question: would you ever date someone here? Like, seriously, because the men tried it, tried it while we were there. And they were like, no, I want to date someone who's Black. And I was like, they are Black. What do you mean? And so they were like, no, they're Dominican. And I was like, what? So that was the first time, like, it opened up my eyes to the fact that some people see or define the term Black differently than others. Anywho, it's Valentine's Day, so this was the topic that came to my mind, and I thought it was a good question. So let me know your thoughts down below. Obviously, I am open to both. Like, I have no problem with dating Black men. My whole stance, or my whole positioning is not really having a preference for dating American. And that's whatever race. It's culturally, I think, because I know because of the lifestyle I live, because I know the type of future I want to have, and honestly, just because of being American myself and knowing what comes with the culture, my preference is to date outside of my own culture. But as far as race goes, I don't discriminate against my own people. So yeah, I'm definitely open to both, to dating outside of my race and my culture. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? How do you define the term Black? And would you be open to dating outside of your culture and or race? All right. And if you are actually looking to make the move abroad anytime soon, feel free to come join us in the Women Digital Nomads group, my Facebook group. It's free to join. The link is down in the description box below. And as always, thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Ciao.